Hi, my name is Bryn. I'm a logistics coordinator. Part of my role is to find outside carriers to help ship freight. Today, Richard and I are going to talk to you about some of the concerns that brokers and logistics coordinators might have when they're looking for outside carriers.
Freight being properly secured and who is responsible for it. One of the biggest problems we have as a freight broker is who is ultimately responsible for securing the load. If it is a flatbed load and driver is sitting there monitoring the load, he assumes responsibility for securing the load, whether it be strapping, tarping, etc. However, say it is a dry van load indoors and the driver is advised to stay in the truck, it is ultimately the shipper that assumes liability for securing the load. With the driver not being on site and inspecting the load while it's being loaded, he assumes zero liability for the load while it is in transit. Drivers have the absolute right to refuse a load if they feel that the load is unsecured. Ultimately, if a driver drives off the lot with that load and it's unsecured, he assumes responsibility and that falls under his insurance. Whereas if the shipper loaded the product and it shifts somewhere in transit, the shipper assumes liability for that as they were the ones to secure the load and driver was not on the dock. Now, how do you solve these issues when they occur is simple. You have to be the middleman between the shipper and the driver or the trucking company that we hire to do the load. And maybe that is calling the shipper and finding out or having them explain to you why they feel that it is safe for the load to be loaded like this, and then contacting the driver and getting his word as to why he feels the load is unsafe, and then finding a common ground between the two parties and rectifying the issue.
Pickup and delivery times and load cancellations. When we outsource shipments to different carriers, we absolutely must take into consideration that these shipments have specific requirements that need to be met. Some of these include strict pickup and delivery times. The carrier needs to respond in an overall timely manner. The carrier should be reliable, responsible, and honest with their communication to us. Sometimes, though, there are carriers that will accept a load and there's a disconnect between operations, dispatch, and drivers. This can create really sticky situations for us when we're trying to update our customers with vital pickup, delivery, freight tracking, and tracing information. If we agree to a specific pickup time and delivery time, this is the expectation of our customer and what we are expecting of a carrier.
Carriers back-soliciting customers, we like to avoid these situations at all cost, as you want to keep your customer and keep your business flowing. Some of the things we do to avoid this happening is we put in place carrier contracts or carrier agreements that basically null and voids them from being able to go after a customer for a certain amount of time. The other thing that we do is we keep our customers' information confidential, whether it be a shipper's phone number or a consignee's phone number or a point of contact. We like to keep that information in-house, giving us some control of the shipment. That way we control the pickup and delivery appointments, and as well as any delays, we can inform the customer within a timely manner. That avoids the customer having to go to another broker or to an in-house carrier direct and cutting us out. Building a broker relationship with your carriers is a very important thing to do in this industry, as carriers are the core value of what we are as brokers. Without a carrier, we don't have a truck on a load and potential customers' freight moving over the road.
The next point I want to cover is technology and tracking. High quality technology and tracking are very important tools to have in any transport company. We like to work with carriers who have load tracking capabilities and satellites on their trucks, trailers, and both if it's an option. This way we can request real-time updates from the dispatch department we are working with. This ensures that all the requirements can be met for our customers. If a situation should present itself, like a truck breakdown or even traffic delays on the 401 or any of the major transport routes across Canada and into the US, we are still able to track down a shipment and find out what stage of transit the freight is in, and then we're able to update our customer accordingly. We want to be able to ensure that the best technology tracking systems are in place so our customers have peace of mind when entrusting us to ship their freight.
Dispatchers' availability to give updates on loads moving in transit. Sometimes we have communications here with a lot of trucking companies, and that could simply just be a communication issue. You're not dealing with the right person. So tracking and tracing loads in a timely manner, maybe 15 minutes before it picks up and hour and a half after it delivers, because Generally, the rule of thumb is we have 2 hours free for loading, 2 hours free for unloading. Anything after that, and a carrier can potentially charge us extra charges. Another way to get proper updates is knowing who to speak to at the company. Who was the load dispatched to? Is there a tracking tracing department? Who handles this corridor? Is the load inbound? Is it outbound? Is it a reefer load, flatbed, dry van? There's lots of avenues of getting proper updates from a carrier. Some carriers respond better by emails, some carriers respond better by phone calls. So just identifying that with a carrier and making their life easier makes it easier for everybody. Knowing when you're getting the runaround from a carrier, know when he's avoiding the questions. Is he physically contacting the driver? A lot of the times if they're having issues or they're delayed or they've potentially put that driver in another load, they will avoid giving you direct answers and updates right away on the spot. So that's one way to identify it. Asking for a driver's phone number, cutting out the middleman, cutting out the trucking company altogether and going direct to the driver. That is one way we can avoid getting false updates. I mean, driver is not going to lie to you. He's obviously going to give you an update because he knows you as the broker are the customer and have the potential to get him offloaded within a timely manner.
Transport can be risky business. The next topic I'm going to cover is proper insurance. Like most aspects in life, shipping and transport is a considerable risk for our customers, as well as a risk for their shippers and receivers. Carriers are also taking a risk with their drivers and their equipment. There are a lot of variables that are happening all at once when a driver is assigned and dispatched to pick up and deliver freight. As brokers, we must evaluate a carrier's insurance when using them to ship freight for us. We need to check to see what types of insurance coverage they have in place and what their policies are covering. Shipments and freight come in all different shapes, sizes, and even value. Certain shipments might exceed the value of an insurance policy, which means additional insurance will need to be applied by either the carrier or the customer, and sometimes it can be both.
The next issue we're going to go on is loads being held hostage. This is a big issue within this industry, as it does happen quite often, and this can happen for multiple reasons, whether there's extra charges on a load, whether there was waiting time. If you know that you owe a carrier waiting time, explaining to them that you need to get approval for the waiting time and getting the load delivered is your top priority. You never want to tell a carrier you're going to fine them or you're going to give them a deduction while the load is in transit, because that's just going to put you in a situation where they're going to want to hold the load hostage till they're paid in full for the load. Identifying the problem and reason for the cause of the load being held hostage is a big issue, whether it be customs issues and who's responsible for it. Did the carrier do everything that they were supposed to be, paperwork being submitted on time? Did the shipper supply everything that the carrier needed to get the load cleared in a timely manner? Sometimes we've had issues in the past where paperwork is missing a country of origin or a value of product, and a driver ends up having 4 or 5 hours waiting time at the border, which he's obviously going to want to be reimbursed for. And as long as you are notifying all parties, whether it be the customer, the trucking company, and keeping everybody informed, 9 times out of 10, you're able to solve that issue without any further issues or without a carrier taking a load hostage.
The final thing I'm going to talk to you about today is double brokering loads. When a shipment is double brokered, this means the carrier we chose to outsource to uses another carrier to haul the freight, and they will usually give us a higher rate for the shipment. The carrier we originally chose to ship the load will end up covering the cost of their outsourced agent at a lower rate and then make a profit on our shipment. This can be very frustrating when brokering out loads. We always like to ensure that our freight is being shipped directly with the carrier, and the carrier we have hired is not brokering out or reselling our shipment. The reason behind this is because we have a set price our customer is paying us for. If another carrier decides to outsource our freight, we have very little control over the shipment from pickup to delivery. In this instance, we are usually not notified that the shipment has been outsourced. It becomes very difficult for us, and we have little visibility and communication for tracking and tracing shipments. In these circumstances, we're not able to provide our customer with necessary real-time status updates and provide quality of service, and this just leads to frustrated customers. We generally know who the carriers are that use partner agents to pick up and deliver freight, and we tend to stay away from these types of carriers. But sometimes we do have to learn the hard way by trial and error.
And last is in-transit agreement modifications. 9 times out of 10, it is an agreement modification that makes a carrier hold a load hostage. So the first thing you want to identify is, why has the extra charge come up? What is the reason of it? Is it a delay at a shipper, a delay at a consignee, a delay at a border? Who is the cause of the issue? Was the issue caused by the carrier themselves? Was the issue caused by the shipper? Was the issue caused by a delay in the customs broker processing the paperwork? There's many different ways. Finding out what the problem is and then identifying how to solve it. If it is a country of origin or a value on the paperwork, it may be something as easy as contacting the customer and having them resubmit paperwork and getting the load cleared. It doesn't solve the issue of extra charges at the border, but at least if all parties are identified and everybody is aware of the situation, then the proper parties who are responsible for the bill obviously can get them paid. Finally, it's getting the customer's load delivered within a timely manner. I mean, obviously issues are going to arise. It's transportation, there's weathers, accidents, multiple different things that can happen. It's just a matter of finding that common ground with the carrier, getting it rectified, and ultimately getting the customer's freight delivered.
Thanks everyone for watching this video. If you like our content, please subscribe below and hit the notification bell. This is Bryn. See you in the next one.